How's it going, guys? Casey here with the Coyote Works channel. Well, I thought I'd do a video today with you guys. I'm going to be metal detecting this mine site. Now, where I'm at right now is I'm actually down below where the mine site is. The mine site's a little bit further up the hill, maybe just about a quarter of a mile up the hill behind me. But where I'm standing right now is where there's a T intersection of two historic roads. One that heads on out into the upper country from here, and then one that heads up to another community, goes up past the mine. All right, I've been reconning this site a little bit, just walking around trying to get a feel for the lay of the land. And I think I've identified the spot where we're going to start metal detecting right back here behind us. And the reason why I picked that spot is it's just off the road, which is about 20 yards over there. The creek is back behind the camera running this way. Some nice old trees here that would have been significant trees even 100 years ago or so. Some cans around here, and I'm thinking this would have been a very nice little spot to pitch a tent, to sit, to have lunch, to camp, anything like that. So we're going to start metal detecting right back in this little group of trees. And I don't know how well the camera is picking this up, but another reason why I thought this might have been a camp spot is because there's a pretty good pile of broken glass and cans and stuff in here. They're actually kind of scattered throughout this area, but right here there's a concentration of them. So let's get the metal detector fired up, and we'll see what we can find in here before we head up the hill to the mine. All right, I'm running my Fisher F75. I'm running almost no discrimination. I'm basically just discriminating out the lowest, poorest iron. Alright guys, I got an interesting sounding signal right here, and I think I've got it uncovered. I think that's a bullet. I'm going to try to get a really good shot of that so you guys can look at it and tell me what you think it is. But if anybody can tell me what that is, a lead bullet, probably 50 caliber-ish with 3 rings on it. If that gives anybody enough information to date that. Otherwise I'll go back home and do a little research, and that might help actually date this site right here. So that's pretty cool, but I'm going to spend a little bit more time combing this site, and then we're going to run up to where the actual mine was. All right. I got another signal right here. It should be pretty close to the top, and I'm hoping it's something cool. It might just be another shell casing. I found a couple of these tin canning lids, and they ring up pretty nice. So let's see what we got here. Oh, a shell casing. It is a straight-walled shell casing though. 3855 it says on it. So that's not a cartridge that I'm familiar with. Yeah, that's definitely what it says. So that's interesting. I found a bullet and a couple of kind of interesting cartridge cases here. Okay, well, it's interesting that I found a couple of more shell casings in here. These were 44 special, which are a little bit newer. So those could have been, you know, who knows, those could have been all the way up into the 60s or whatever. I think this was definitely used as a camping spot. Could have been used as a hunting camp over the years. There's definitely, you know, trash here all the way back to the early 1900s. Those soldered lid tin cans, things like that, all the way up to probably that 44 special case that I found is into the, maybe even the 40s, somewhere in there. So it was definitely used off and on for a long time, which makes sense, because out in this country, any place where there's water and an intersection of roads coming together, it would have been a logical spot to camp. So, but let's head up the hill and hit the mine. so we're up at the upper part where the actual mine was, and I'm just walking it a little bit, trying to get a little bit of a feel for where I want to focus my metal detecting efforts. So what I'm basically doing when I'm reconning the site like this is I'm trying to get a picture of the patterns of use of the site, like how they moved back and forth, where they worked, where they stayed, where they stored their tools and equipment, to kind of get an idea of how they interacted with the site, and that'll start to tell me where the logical areas might be for me to find interesting stuff metal detecting. So I want to find spots where they would have hung out, where there was a lot of human activity kind of concentrated. So let me show you guys around the site just a little bit. So where I'm standing right now, hopefully you guys can see behind me, is where they would have had the smelter set up, or the little furnace where they would have kind of processed down the ore. And then we're going to walk up the hill just a little bit up here, and we'll get to where more of their actual campsite was set up. So all around in this area, I'm guessing there was a lot of activity. So this is where I'm probably going to focus. Oh, there's a piece of an old stovepipe laying down there. All right, so now maybe behind me, you can see this pile of boards here. So this is where there was some kind of a structure, and this might have been like a little cabin where the miners stayed, or at least one or two of the miners stayed while they were up here working. All right, so where I'm standing here is on one of the tailing piles, and back down there behind me is where that cabin was, and a little bit further down the draw, just another 100 yards or so, is where the furnace was. And then up here on this side of the hill, there's all these tailings piles. So we're gonna see if we can see any evidence of there being like a tunnel or anything in here. And I'm not seeing anything like that so far, but we've got quite a few more tailing piles to examine. And then there's also a whole bunch more over on the other side. Yeah, all over in here. Hopefully you guys can see that, but all over in here, they dug, prospected, maybe even pulled some ore out. All right, so up here is where the bulk of the mining happened here. And what they were mining for here was cinnabar. And cinnabar is the ore from which they extracted mercury. So there were a couple of periods of time in history when mercury was extremely valuable and worth mining out of these desolate areas like this. And one of the uses for mercury was to aid in the process of extracting gold from the ore that gold is found in. So a lot of the mercury that was mined around here was actually used also in the gold mining efforts that were around here. All right, so I haven't found any open adits or shafts, but here's a collapsed shaft right here. That's pretty cool because you can still see the framework, or the wood that they shored up the sides with. This soil is pretty soft here, so they probably actually had to side or wall in the walls of the tunnel until they got down a little ways past or into some more stable soil. So this is pretty cool. It's too bad it's not open. Check out this massive chunk of metal. This is riveted together. It's almost like it's a piece off of an old boiler or something. So I don't know what function it served out here, but that's an old piece of steel, and it's heavy. It's probably, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch thick, or maybe even a little bit more than that. All right, well, this is good. So this is where the bulk of the mining efforts occurred. I think there was probably a couple of levels in here. This was a shaft that went down, and then I think there was a lower tunnel that connected in with it down below. I see a place where some more tailings came out down there. So This is where the bulk of the mining happened. Over there was the cabin. Now I've got a pretty good idea of how the use patterns occurred on this site. So we're gonna go grab the metal detector and see if we can't find some old coins or something. All right, so basically I was metal detecting up around the mine area up there where they would have been working. And now I'm following the road back to that cabin, and I've been metal detecting the road. So I pulled a couple of shell casings out of the road, kind of that 40s, 50s kind of era, I'm guessing. But I got a good signal right here that's ringing up like a nickel. Now, it's ringing pretty strong, but it could be a pull tab or another shell casing. It's not very deep, so let's see what we got here. The pinpointer out. Ah, damn it. A spice can. Man, that thing rang up nice. Make sure there's no coins in it. That's really interesting how clean that rang up. Normally they're a pretty choppy signal, but nope. Yep, nothing left. I always like to look underneath trees like this because I think if I was a miner or a cowboy out here, I would be sitting underneath a tree to eat my lunch or something like that, chew on a little bit of salt pork. Where I'm at right here is right by this cabin, and so I've been working this site now for, gosh, about 2.5, 3 hours or something, this upper portion of the mine, and found some cartridges. I have yet to find a coin or anything. I'm sure there is one here, but there's a lot of trash to deal with. This site was used for a long time, but I thought maybe I'd show you guys a little bit right here by this cabin of some of the stuff that tells me that this site was used over a long period of time. So I thought I'd show you guys a few of the clues that I look for when I'm trying to put together what was happening at a site. So where I'm sitting at right here, this was actually a structure, and I think this was a living structure. And I'll show you a couple of reasons why. One is, here's some window glass. And window glass was a pretty rare commodity way out here, and so typically was only going to be used in a living structure. You're not going to see windows in like a feed shed or something like that. You're also not likely to see windows in a structure that was really temporary. So that tells me that this was likely a fairly serious shelter that was used over a decent period of time, or at least they intended to when they built it. A couple other things that let me know that this was a permanent structure is sections of stovepipe. So again, it had a stove in it, and then even pieces of the old stove. These are heavy pieces of cast iron that the old stove was made out of, and I found quite a few of these around. So that, in addition to the large amount of cans that are around here, tells me that this site was a site that someone lived in. Gotta be careful where I put my knees. There's a lot of glass right here. So other indications that this site was occupied for a long period of time is the variety of the ages of tin cans here. So I've got the oldest type with the center solder and then the little bit larger ring of solder, all the way up through the more modern sanitary cans with the more modern crimp that started getting used like widespread in like by the 1920s. Then we've also got quite a bit of porcelain and china broken up in here, which also tells me it's another clue that it was likely occupied fairly permanently. Oh yeah, check this out, the old privy. And it's actually pretty amazing that this thing's not completely destroyed too. It doesn't look like it's been dug. Alright guys, well, I couldn't resist sitting right here. I was thinking about the fact that probably almost 100 years ago, potentially, somebody sat right here, probably first thing in the morning, right as it was getting light, just before they headed up the hill to do some mining. Maybe they had the Sears catalog with them or the Montgomery Ward's catalog. and they sat right here and they looked at the catalog, contemplated the day, and went about their morning routine. Maybe they had a cup of coffee sitting right here on the side of this. There's plenty of room in here, and so anyway, I just couldn't resist taking a minute to sit on the same throne that the guys that pioneered this site here sat on way back in the day. So I didn't have the kind of time that I wanted to really get down and metal detect this site, and we didn't find anything too exciting, but what we did get is a good idea of how this site functioned, where the work happened, where the living happened, where processing the ore happened, where the mine was, the trail in between them. So that puts us in a good position to be able to come back and search this site again and again and again. And this is a place that's not actually too far from my house. I'm about maybe 40 minutes or so drive from my house, so this is a place I can run out, metal detect for a couple hours in the afternoon. So I hope you guys enjoyed joining me for this little adventure. I know it wasn't too terribly exciting, but I get so many questions about people asking me whether or not I ever metal detect. I thought I'd show you a little bit of that process that I go through and show you guys that I do sometimes. So with that said, hit me up with any comments or questions down below. As always, man, I really appreciate all your guys' support. I'll look forward to seeing you guys on the next adventure, but for now, Coyote Works, out. And hey, before I let you guys go, I want to take a couple of minutes and thank all the people that have contributed to the Gas and Tires Fund by clicking on the PayPal donate link in the description down below one of my videos. Man, you guys are rock stars, and I hope you know how much I appreciate each and every one of those contributions. It's a huge help in covering the costs of all the cameras, video editing equipment, and everything else that goes into producing the Coyote Works content. And ultimately, it's your contributions that keep my channel free and completely independent. And if any of the rest of you would like to throw a couple bucks in the Gas and Tire Fund, it's as easy as clicking on the PayPal donate link in the description down below. Thanks everyone, I'll see you on the next video.